DDG episode 4, live on Twitch, or live whenever you're listening to this on podcast services of choice, because we're live whenever you hit play.
Yep, on the many services that are available.
That we found out, we keep finding out that there's more.
Every time there's a tweet, I'm like, all right, that must be a thing. So then I go find one. Some of them make it really easy for me to add. Some of them are just kind of like a mystery.
Yep. My name is Dave Hunt. I'm one of your hosts, and we are also joined as normal by Michael Swick.
How's it going?
All right, we've got a couple things to go over. We had an event last week for Xbox. We've got a Google Stadia launch coming up, and we've got some other interesting topics to talk about, and lots of games. Not lots of games, but gaming discussions to be had for what we're playing and watching. So please, whatever podcast service you're using, leave a review if possible. 5 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, comment, whatever. Any of that stuff, it moves us up in the charts. Like, we've been getting emails and stuff like that through Simplecast of where we rank on certain things. So I don't really know how all of that works, but the more people you can expose to the show, the higher chance that we have to get more new listeners and help build the community. So any way that you can share the podcast is greatly appreciated. And then something else that we've done, we talked about it a little bit last week, but now that it's live, it's a little easier to talk about. So we took the conversation that Michael and I had about the review for Modern Warfare, and we pulled that out of the weekly podcast, like made a second copy of just that audio. And I think it was like 18 minutes. And then we took gameplay of Call of Duty and put it on top of it and then posted it to YouTube. So, I know our show is an hour and a half typically. And that could be a little bit hard for people to decide if they do or don't like, and when they first look at it. So if you want to send them that YouTube link and say, hey, this is the podcast that I listen to, these guys are pretty good, they're interesting, and that gives you a smaller snippet of the conversation of, I know you like Call of Duty, listen to these guys talk about it, and then maybe you'll like the show. So that is another way that you could do that. And we would appreciate that. Or let them know that the show is live on YouTube as well. The show goes live on YouTube when the podcast goes live on audio services. So, and like Michael mentioned earlier, if there is an audio service that you use to listen to our podcast that we're not on, let us know, and we will do what we can to figure out on a way to get on there. Sometimes it's easier said than done. So.
Yep. And sometimes that podcast service will like your tweet to your broken link, and then when you say, can you help me fix it, they will not respond. So,
are we on Player FM?
We were, but the link turned into a 404 broken link.
Okay.
And then I asked them, hey, can you help with this? And then they just liked the tweet that their name was mentioned in. So, yeah. Still working on Player FM.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So there's a couple little basic things that I just want to go over. We have a friend of Michael's made a bunch of images and stuff for us, so we've cleaned up the Twitch page a little bit more. I started streaming earlier in the week with a new overlay, and somebody commented like, oh, cool, Michael doesn't have to advertise his own personal channel anymore.
Hell yeah. I still might now.
So yeah, things are still kind of coming together. We are working on emotes because we got Twitch affiliated last week. Which... we had mentioned I think Michael and I set a goal of like mid to late December for that.
Yeah, it was like we were looking at it like, all right, if we do everything we can, maybe by December, maybe it'll be a Christmas gift for us.
Yeah, and we got it before Thanksgiving. So that is a huge thank you to all of you hitting the followers, hanging out in the streams for a little bit to increase our average viewer count, and just being there when we stream. Like, that's a big deal. So we now have the ability to accept subscriptions. One of the easiest ways to do that is through Amazon Prime, and 10 of you have already done that, which is super awesome. So thank you guys so much. And today is the day I can do this, and I will be number 11 right now.
Nice.
But that's just a very nice way to support the channel, support us in our project and everything that we're doing with this in terms of content creation and ways of interacting with the community. I am working on linking the subscriptions to Discord. That is also tiered to our Patreon support through Discord. So that is kind of a slow moving ball. I just want to make sure that I do everything correctly before I go fully live with it. And I need to use Michael as like a crash dummy for that. And then we're getting into some busy times personally for Michael and myself, but we are still working through all of that. Feedback is very important to us as well. Like I said, leaving the reviews, leaving comments. We know the audio was a little wonky for episode 2 and 3, and we're working on that. Some tools that we are used to using from editing have been updated and changed and things like that. So we should have that fixed hopefully by this episode. But if this audio is not right, please tweet at us and let us know, and we will learn and adjust and adapt from that. Same thing for Patreon. Like if you want to go to patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, then and you read through it and you don't like any of it, let us know why. Too high, too low, not enough, not cool enough, not nice enough. I want something different, and then we can look at that. We had already briefly talked about some ways that we can adjust that, but at the same time, it's only 17 days old.
Yeah, we're still. The good thing is we're still molding and figuring things out. So right now is a great time to send all of that feedback to us, and then we can do what we can to improve what we're building for the future.
Yeah. So we are going to move on to our show, and we're going to hit you with some news. And you changed the order on this on me, so I don't know where we're at. So go ahead.
We're going to start with a game that you mentioned last week, Anthem. So a Jason Schreier report on Kotaku revealed, though I gave Dave a different link to it, but basically BioWare, despite their silence on Anthem, according to multiple sources from Jason Schreier and Polygon also were able to confirm some of this. It sounds like all the BioWare studios, which I believe is 3 studios.
Isn't it like
Austin,
Edmonton, Austin, and Montreal?
Edmonton. So it's 2 studios.
Okay.
So Austin and Edmonton, they are basically looking to No Man's Sky Anthem in terms of just overhauling the game. But it's in such an early stage, especially after a couple of their executive producers left like a month or 2 ago. They are looking to just reboot Anthem, but they're not quite sure how. They don't know if it means they're going to a thing that was brought up in the Kotaku article, if they're going to go the Destiny route of do expansions that are game changing. They mentioned Taken King being inspiration. Because I guess that was a big Destiny expansion.
Yeah.
Dave would confirm that.
Yes.
In terms of how many things it changed, or if they want to go the big dramatic route and do No Man's Sky changes, where they're pretty large overhauls of the game. But the issue right now is they kind of don't know that the reason they've gone silent and took that roadmap down is because they are trying to figure it out, and they're looking to change almost everything. The world design, how loot works, some of the basic level design, kind of a lot of stuff they're looking to change.
Figure out how to make the game fun?
Basically, yes. EA wouldn't confirm this, but Jason Schreier.
Of course they wouldn't, because it would look terrible for their shareholders.
But it kind of still sounds like a mess, where they don't really know what they're doing, but they're breaking the game down as much as they can to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And they don't even know if these would be free updates or if they would just be a whole new game or paid expansions. I'm hoping if they're smart, it's going to be free updates.
It has to be. It has to be free updates.
Because they can't do Anthem 2. That would be crazy. That won't sell at all.
They could do Anthem : something, and try to repackage it and things like that. But they need to make sure that if you own Anthem, that you're lumped into this already. If they want to try to go get new players or whatever and get more people on there playing their game, that's fine. They also just need to go the route of what Destiny and Division have done. If they truly want to do this, and they need to look at who is still playing their game, which I'm sure it still are some people.
It is. The player counts are really low, though.
Yeah, they need to look at who is still playing their game, and then they need to bring them to Edmonton or to Austin. If it's 5 or 10 or 20 of these people, They need to bring them there. They need to bring players, consistent players of the Division and Destiny, that have also played, Anthem, and bring them there as well, and do pretty much like a community summit for this game, and have a huge discussion about what was good, why it was good, and what you hope it to see out of it, and build off of that.
Yeah.
And that's the only chance. Like if you're talking about like redoing your levels and things like that, or changing things, then that involves like you have to do it strategically over time. Like you can't just like flick a switch and all of a sudden like Anthem is, and this is an extreme example, but all of a sudden Anthem is a first person shooter. Like you can't do that.
No, yeah. You can't go that crazy without
right.
At least talking to the community.
So like it has to be, methodical and strategic, and it has to take time, and it'll be multiple updates. Division 1 had 5 or 6 updates, and then they were able to put the final update on there that connected all of those other updates. Destiny was able to bring out Taken King based on the entire year of feedback of what worked and didn't work. And then at the same time, Bungie made the mistake and took all of the feedback they got from post Taken King into Rise of Iron and said, okay, well, this is what the community is telling us. Here's Destiny 2. And it was a pile of crap after 2 months, and they had to do it again. So they really need to look at what Division has done, because Division has almost done it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to look at what a game like For Honor has done, and they need to look at what Bungie has done, and build and evolve around that. Like your foundation is there. I've never said that Anthem's foundation isn't there, but reasons to play and to go back. I've always said that the stories of these types of games, like their stories, are just used as a way for you to learn how to play the game. And yes, some people will play the story and walk away from it, but you can't make story more important than your gameplay loop. And if you do that, you get Anthem.
Yeah. And it looks like they're going to avoid doing little fixes. They're looking to do full breakdowns and reworks. I just had it in the article.
But you do that over time, like over 2 or 3 months. You change how loot works, and you build on that, and then you change how like the gameplay loop of how you get the loot works. You can't do all of that at one time.
So here's like the early things that they plan to work on, or at least according to these developers. We don't know how high up on the tier they are, or if BioWare is just broken people into teams and are like, work on this, see if it works. But they're gonna work on the loot, the quests, the social aspects, the difficulty, the progression system, and the world maps, which sounds like everything.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things they're changing. And they mentioned a couple times, or at least a couple different people in the articles mentioned that they don't want to do little fixes here and there. They want to go for big, grand, sweeping fixes or changes.
You piss off your player base too fast, and then you overreact too quick.
What if that player base is so small it doesn't matter? I mean, realistically, like companies like EA don't think in dozens. They think in like hundreds of thousands. In terms of like, there's only 20,000 people playing. Is it worth pissing those 20,000 people off?
I think
you can get a million.
I think when you swing for the fences every single time, you're going to miss more than you're going to hit over the fence. And then if you try to hit singles more often, then you're going to eventually score runs.
Yeah.
If you don't understand baseball, I'm sorry.
No. I just wonder, like, I wish we had the raw numbers of how many people are playing. Until they bring Anthem to Steam, we won't really know those numbers for at least PC. But I'm wondering if the reason they're thinking of doing these crazy, like, big sweeping changes is because that player count is actually extremely low.
Yeah, I mean, a couple people have brought it up in chat. I mean, initially, the 7 million copies of this game got sold.
Yeah, but how many people are left?
Right.
Realistically, how many people are left? And I wonder, though, if EA wanted to cut ties with this. I feel like this is a pride thing for BioWare, to where maybe they have enough leverage that they're like, give us another shot. And the player count is just low enough that EA is like, okay. But but you know,
Well, I
you owe
think
us Dragon
I
Age
think
4.
EA is worried about their image a little bit too, and they're trying to make it look like, because Ubisoft gets a ton of credit for supporting their games and supporting their studios for long hauls. Sony gets a ton of credit for allowing their studios essentially almost whatever amount of time they need to make their games, and it's paid off for those studios like in the long run. I mean, you look at what Ubisoft was able to do with Rainbow Six Siege, to where it was on Anthem's level of garbage in its first 4 to 6 months of it being out, and now it's a top tier, esport that
Yeah.
they've made their money off seasonal content. And I think if Anthem does something where they introduce a fun style of gameplay through free updates, and they build a base and they build a player base that's significant, what significant means to EA or to BioWare, I have no idea. And then you layer on top of that some seasonal content and some events and some things like that to bring the players, and some cool stuff. You're gonna have to, take some hits on the financial side of it for a little while to then hopefully benefit from monetizing the game.
But it's funny, we talk about like EA's been taking hits lately. Every time EA takes hits like this, or at least the last 2 times they've taken hits, they've at least had Respawn
Save their ass. Yeah.
Yeah, so we say like EA's taking hits, but we'll talk about it later. Respawn might have saved their ass yet again.
Mm-hmm.
And then BioWare's already working on Dragon Age 4, but it sounds like that's not coming till 2022, according to an investor call. So BioWare's a 2-studio team, so they have time to like rebuild Anthem, get this out, and then the Kotaku article mentions they're already working on the next Mass Effect game, which I really thought Mass Effect was going to go away for a while. So I'm wondering how big of an overall Anthem really can get from BioWare if they're in the middle of rebooting Mass Effect again, because they have to reboot Mass Effect again based on how Mass Effect went last time with Andromeda. And Dragon Age sounds like that's already gone through like 2 iterations. Like Dragon Age 4 has already gone through like 2 iterations where they like threw the game out, started again, and then they started like Anthem.
Yeah.
Like I'm still worried about BioWare's future. I'm wondering how this Anthem thing's going to go, or if this is just kind of talk. Like, they have like a small team at both studios just kind of like fucking around with Anthem because there's no one playing anymore, so it's not going to hurt.
They just need to be careful that they don't go the route of like Bethesda, what they've tried to do with like Fallout 76 and stuff like that. They need to stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to have something interesting or cool to draw some attention from other players of like, hey, I'll go check that out. Like, like Destiny did it again with like the Sparrow Racing that they had for a little while, where it's like, hey, this is something that like a lot of people have been saying that they wanted. Here's an event. I don't remember ever hearing about an event in Anthem and and things like that. And Division didn't have any events either.
There's snow now.
So, but it'll be interesting to see. They just need to not only figure out how to rebuild it, but then how to announce the rebuilding.
Mm-hmm. But I guess we'll see in the future. I mean, their roadmap's already thrown out, so we'll see eventually in their future what they plan to do with it. But let's move on to like a happier story, even though Anthem's promising.
Right.
I just threw this story in just for myself personally. Stardew Valley is potentially getting its last patch, its endgame patch. Stardew Valley is like a farming simulator romance kind of game that I adore. It recently on consoles got its multiplayer patch. The developer behind it, I'm gonna just look it up real quick. Sorry if you can hear my keyboard. It's a really small team. I believe it started with just one guy.
Yeah. It was one guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just because you read the trailer.
And he did a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And he
did a Kickstarter.
Got overwhelmed with everything that people wanted from it, and buried himself in his house for 2.5 years to make this game.
Yep, and it came out and he kind of hit everything he wanted to hit. It came out in 2016, and he's been continuously patching the game, adding things. They added the multiplayer to all the versions of the game now. So all the versions of the game are on version 1.3, which added a bunch of stuff on top of the multiplayer co-op. But now he is finally ready to release what he's calling like the end game patch, and this is going to be free like all the other patches have been. And he basically is going to be able to fix all the bugs that have been kind of lingering since the game came out, but were kind of minor bugs that weren't that big a deal. But because he's kind of a perfectionist, he's just going to patch those out. Other developers might have just been like, it's small, who cares? He's patching out the rest of the bugs that he knows of, and he's adding new, uh, like, romance, relationship scenes to the end game that weren't there before. He's adding like new screenshot abilities. I just wanted to put this in just because it's like a developer who has put a significant amount of effort into his game and has released continuous updates for this game, even though it wasn't really required. Like all this stuff that he's been adding to the game have been great, but the game was great when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't necessarily need all this stuff. But the patch will be out in 2020. But it's been like 4 years since the game came out, and he's been continuously updating this game, and he's finally like done. So like the Stardew Valley loop will be closed in 2020.
When I read this article as end game patch, I'm so programmed with these games that I've been playing lately of like, oh, the end game for Stardew Valley. Not the end of the game.
No, it's the game will finally have. Well, it's funny. The game already had like a proper ending, but he's adding more to that proper ending. But then after this, it sounds like he will be done and he will be satisfied with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and it's also, you know, we gave a lot of crap to Anthem because it just sounds like they don't know what to do. They want to patch the game, they don't know what to do. We don't know what's going to happen to the future. It's nice seeing like a small indie game, obviously completely different scales, but it's kind of nice seeing a game have a plan, kind of have a roadmap for the last 4 years, and then finally close the loop. Happy story, happy ending. And I love Stardew Valley, and the multiplayer patches finally hit PlayStation, like I think just recently, like super recent. So I need to get back on that because I have it on PS4, though I might buy it on Switch for convenience because I love the Switch. But yeah, just a happy. I want to just put like a happy story in right after Anthem.
Gaming is good still sometimes.
Yeah, and Stardew Valley is definitely one of those reminders that gaming can be fantastic and whimsical. Though we're not going to follow this up with a sad story either. We're going to keep this train rolling before we fall off a cliff. Dave, do you want to talk about the next thing that Microsoft was doing this weekend?
So Microsoft did an event in London, I guess X019 or X19, like I don't.
Yeah, XO.
Yeah, XO. Yeah, XO19, which was essentially like a Paris Games Week or a mini Gamescom, mini E3. They had
their PSX. For people.
They had a press conference or a beginning of a kickoff thing.
It was a weird I felt like it belonged on MTV.
Yeah.
It was so like casual but corporate. But they had announcements.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing that came out of it was Project xCloud is coming in 2020, and it's going to work with Games Pass. Like that was the huge thing that was with it. Like you sign up for a Project xCloud, and it sounds like it's gonna. They don't know. They haven't said the price yet, but it will have Game Pass included in it, which automatically makes it better than anything Stadia has right now.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. And they talked about it like working on mobile networks, and the biggest thing is it's going to work with like a DualShock.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it is.
And they announced some other things coming to Xbox Game Pass, like all the Final Fantasy or a chunk of Final Fantasy games are coming next year to Games Pass. And then
all the new games they announced during the press conference or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I guess like not to like go off on a side tangent, but I am curious about your thoughts of this. Like, are they setting themselves up for an impossible standard?
Yeah,
Because I feel
they're
like right
definitely.
now every Xbox game studio, my expectation as a consumer is that that game will be on Games Pass.
And I think they've set that expectation, and I think that will be the thing.
So does that mean the possibility for me being an Xbox Game Pass owner on PC is that I will get to play the brand new Halo day and date?
Yes, that is like I believe that is the goal. Because Halo, I think they already announced that that is going to be on PC.
Well, yeah, Halo
Uh,
Reach and the Master Chief Collection is coming to
no, no,
PC.
the new Halo as well.
Right, and I know it's coming to PC or to even if I'm a console owner, like why? And we've talked about this a little bit before, but why would you buy a $60 game from a Microsoft studio right now? Ever?
Well, I mean, honestly, we both just ended up in the same situation. We'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Where I signed up for Game Pass PC for Outer Worlds, you signed up for EA Access Premier for Star Wars
Yeah.
because it's just a better deal. It's a significantly better deal. And like, I immediately they announced, Age of Empires 2, the definitive edition, was out that day or whatever for Game Pass on PC. So I immediately downloaded it. Otherwise, I would have to pay, like $30 to $60 depending on how much it cost. And it's just like, no, I'm gonna do Game Pass. I think it comes down to just data and subscriptions. They just want that subscription. They could get money from you every month as opposed to one time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to me though. Like, I'm so used to like hearing about God of War sold X amount of copies first week. Days Gone sold X amount of copies first week. Gears 4 sold X amount of copies first week. Halo 4 sold X amount of copies first week. We haven't heard them say anything about how Outer Worlds did on Xbox. They haven't said anything about how Gears 5 did on Xbox. Or we haven't heard numbers. I don't see it charting on MPD or anything like that because it has to be bundled in with these people that are playing it have to be on Games Pass.
Yeah, and we probably won't hear numbers, but because it's continuing, I'm assuming Xbox is pretty satisfied with where things are at. But it is definitely, whether it's working or not, it's going to have to force the competition to step up. Savage in the chat said he's really hoping PS Now puts an app on like Android.
I don't
and
care what
iOS.
PS Now does if I can't get a day and date game on it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but it's one of those things where PS Now is going to have to step up. I mean, Xbox xCloud or whatever is coming to Android phones. PS Now needs to match that, and then they are going to have to eventually match the day and date releases.
Are they though? Like, I mean, I guess that's the question is like because like we haven't seen any Death Stranding numbers or anything like that, but they I'm assuming that some of the numbers are okay, and we're gonna see like Last of Us 2. Like, do we think that Last of Us 2 is not gonna sell well because it's not on a subscription service?
But I don't know if like the selling well, like they could put out a press release that sold however many millions of copies. I don't think like Microsoft or Sony care if they have the subscription people coming in. Like
So you don't think that they care that they get 4 million people to buy Last of Us Part 2 at $60 a piece versus getting 2.5 million people on a subscription service at $7 a month?
I think they're more concerned about the long game of getting as many people to sign up for the service as possible and getting them to pay monthly.
See, I'm just worried that Project Scarlet's going to come out and they're going to have some cool game for it that one of their game studios has been working on, and it's not going to be on Games Pass, and people are going to lose their mind.
Oh, it's going to happen, but I don't think we have to worry about that, or at least as long as like Phil Spencer is in charge of Microsoft or Xbox. I feel like as long as he's there, he's going to make sure it's like day and date. Or at least for the next couple years, it's going to be until it proves to be like.
So you don't think that Microsoft, if Scarlet takes off and is winning the console race against the PS5 the first year and a half, you don't think that they're going to backpedal on Game Pass?
No, they're going to double down because I have a feeling Game Pass is going to be shoved in enough people's faces to where it's going to be like hard not to have Game Pass if you have the next gen Xbox.
Yeah,
I have a feeling.
Well, JP Snake wrote in the chat. It's the Netflix model. Sales totals don't matter. everything that I've heard the last year and a half is Netflix is not making profit.
Oh yeah. Netflix's problem is they're making money, but they're also spending too much money. They're spending more money than they can make.
Is it Microsoft doing the same thing, buying these studios?
They are, but
they
trying
have
to get
Microsoft money. So
yeah, they have Microsoft money, but also more importantly, they're trying to establish themselves as a Netflix, and then hopefully once they get to that level, they don't make the same mistakes Netflix did. Because right now, the only competition for Game Pass is PlayStation Now and Stadia 3. If you look at the streaming wars, there are significantly more streaming services out there competing for that dollar.
mm-hmm.
And that's where Netflix, they just kind of went all out. They went with super prestige, make as much content as possible. I think with video games, they don't have to worry too much about that. The thing you're concerned about is something that they're probably going to have to look at in like 5 to 10 years. But right now they're looking to see what they can do to grow. And I have a feeling when Scarlet comes out, or maybe a little into Scarlet's, you can only get Xbox Ultimate as opposed to, being like, oh, I just want Live or I just want Game Pass.
Mm-hmm. Here's this thing that costs $100 for the year, and it's the only way to buy it.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to go that route to where they're going to make it a good enough deal that people aren't going to bat an eyelash at it. I'm just like, oh, it's $15 a month, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 75% of your console owners to invest in the subscription service, then that's better because, like I've always talked about it, or like the Madden player and the Call of Duty player that only buys like 1 or 2 games a year. They're still going to be there, but then these, like, if anybody asks me right now, like, hey, I'm going to get my son an Xbox, it's probably a great time to buy an Xbox One. Like, I'm going to get him if I get a recommendation or somebody asking me for a recommendation for games that they should get their kid on Xbox, I'm just going to tell them to get Games Pass.
Yeah, no, honestly. And that's why I think the $150 Black Friday bundle, the all digital one, is such a good deal because it comes with 3 months of like Game Pass.
So, and now we can talk about what a company's doing that's probably looking at how Yep.
I was going to say, before we go into that,
the new games.
Announce a fair amount of games.
Rare's a new game, yeah.
Yeah, Rare's got a new game called Everwild, which looks pretty damn cool. Obsidian, even though they just put Outer Worlds out, they have a game coming out next year called Grounded, which is basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Survival game where it's just like a bunch of miniature kids just like trying to survive the backyard, like with giant ants and spiders. Don't Nod announced a new game, the makers of Life is Strange, and there was a lot of like little indie games. The Virginia developers have a new game. I would highly recommend, especially for like some of the indie games that they announced, to check out the presentation. And then Bleeding Edge, the new game from Ninja Theory that's coming out in March, which will be Game Pass on PC and Xbox day one. Grounded will be Xbox Game Pass and PC day one. Everwild will be Xbox Game Pass day one. To where like Microsoft's really hitting it out of the park really at the end of the cycle, which is kind of getting me excited and making me, as someone who's only really own PlayStation consoles at the start of every generation, they are putting a really solid pitch for the next generation. But I also, in the same breath, have a gaming PC, and they are promising all these games on Game Pass on PC.
Right, and it's just like people are saying that they just want they want Xbox as a brand, like not as a console anymore, which is fine. But are you worried that 2 questions? Are you worried that, one, that they're pushing these new studios too hard, too fast? And 2, it'll go together. And 2, now that they are pushing the studios, I think, a little bit too hard, too fast, they don't, or as of now, won't have anything ready for next gen right away within the first 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, So the first question, I'm not really worried about them pushing the studios too hard, because if you look at Rare hasn't had a new game in a long time. They had the retro pack come out 2 years ago.
Didn't they do Battletoads though?
But that was such a small game compared to the rest of their scale.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, and I'm not too sure if that was in, but if it was, I don't think that's that big a scale that I have to worry, or
I
we
don't
have to
even
worry
know
about
if that
like
game's
where.
out. I need to look at that.
Yeah. Uh, Grounded Obsidian, that seems like a fast turnaround time for Obsidian, but they just pushed out a game, a couple weeks ago. So we don't know if they had like a skeleton team working on this. Bleeding Edge, it's been about what, 2 years, a year and a half since Ninja Theory's last game. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're pushing them too hard. They are going for smaller scale games with these new studios, which is like good and bad in terms of like what these studios can do, but we don't know what these final products are going to look like.
Right, but isn't there a part of you? I know you really like Obsidian, but so isn't there a part of you that wants to see Obsidian given the time that Sony Santa Monica or Naughty Dog is given to make something and to see what they can do?
I do. I totally see that point. I want to see what Grounded ends up being like before like I really want them to like take their time and make a big grand scale thing. I'm still playing Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds will keep me entertained for the next couple months. Grounded looks cool. I at this point I don't know if Grounded is like a small distraction and is something that looks like a full studio made it,
Mm.
or if they did what most studios do, where you have like a skeleton team working on a game, and then you have the rest of the team working on like a bigger project.
Because I want to see them. I want to see Microsoft produce a top tier AAA game that does not involve holding a gun in your hand the whole time.
Yeah, and they have the studios to do that. But it's now the second part I'm worried about, not having enough games for their new system. Where they're announcing all of these games from their newly acquired studios that are releasing.
But they have
possibly in the
Halo,
first
so
half.
they're good. Halo's there. They're fine.
Yeah, hopefully Halo is. Hopefully
I mean, it's not like the
Halo is
last
good.
two games haven't been mediocre at best,
Yeah,
or they
but
haven't made a good one since they departed ways with Bungie.
there's that. No, 343 put a decent one out. A decent one, and it's just going to be. I'm just worried about. Did they, or will they not have enough games for that first 6 months of their new console, because they are releasing so many games towards the end of the console, or because the Microsoft money was flowing into these studios, did they immediately just like, hey, we could just finish up all of our like weird project ideas that we wanted to do now that we have this Microsoft money? Double Fine used their Microsoft money to polish up Psychonauts, which release early next year. Maybe Obsidian used their Microsoft money to like, hey, we could do this like weird Honey We Shrunk Ourselves game. Let's just get this out the door. Like maybe they're letting these are like the things to blow off steam before they work on their next gigantic AAA game.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe Obsidian will work on the next Fable game or something, and then this is just a small like little distraction before the next consoles come out. But it's kind of hard to tell until we know like the scale and size of these games.
Right.
But let's go back to kind of a mess that you wanted to bring up.
Kind of a mess.
Kind of a mess. Kind of a mess.
So Google Stadia comes out in 2 days. So, or if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, it is out already.
Yes, it comes out on the 19th.
Yes, of November. And nobody has had a chance to play this in their own personal environment.
No. Other than the Project Steam, but no one's had Stadia proper.
Right.
In their hands.
And all this stuff that they were touting as features won't be ready at launch. Like, I was reading through the article that you sent me, and I almost feel like, is multiplayer not working at launch at all?
No. So multiplayer is working. What's not working is, remember when they showed Breakpoint, where you can like stick other people's streams onto your screen?
Oh, the Stream Connect. Okay.
Yeah, that isn't working, and the turning local multiplayer games into online games. That apparently isn't working either.
Okay. And then
The PlayStation Share Play stuff basically isn't working yet.
right. And then there are now saying that it will only work with certain Chromecasts.
It will only work with the Chromecast Ultras that ship in the Founders Bundle, which is crazy. It is only going to work in the Founders Bundle. So if you have a Chromecast Ultra and you just happen to have a Stadia controller, they're not going to be compatible right away. It might take a couple weeks for your normal Chromecast Ultra, which technically is no different than the Chromecast Ultra that they're shipping with. It's just one of them has the latest firmware on it.
So play anywhere that you take my Chromecast Ultra with you to.
Yeah, you basically have to use your Founders Edition Chromecast Ultra because that's going to have the newest firmware on it, which is kind of crazy. They said that's going to be a couple weeks before it pops up. The crowd play is not coming. The state share is not coming. I believe Bluetooth isn't coming just yet for like PC play.
So,
for the controller?
So the Founders are just a fancy word for beta testers that are paying for it.
Yeah, which people have been joking about for the last like month or two as information has not been coming. It wasn't until this AMA they did on Reddit came out that people were like, oh shit, yeah, we are in a beta.
This is like how not to launch a console. And I'm sorry,
yeah,
Stadia is a console, whether people want it to be a console or not. You're just connecting to the console through the internet.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like it's a mess. Their launch lineup is kind of bad. If you look at it, it's 12 games and 3 of them are Tomb Raider games, which Tomb Raider games are good, but they're all old at this point. Well, pretty much all their games are old. There's only like one new game, like one exclusive Stadia game that's on it. It's just kind of a mess. Like they're not coming with features. Not all the Founders are going to get their Founders Edition day one.
I've got a couple friends that just got charged like yesterday or today for their orders, and they don't have any tracking or anything like that yet either. So like, without any tracking, with going, I mean, unless it's being like next day aired or something like that, like you're not getting this thing on launch day. So
yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Though, as of a couple hours ago, they did increase their launch lineup from 12 games to 22 games.
Would they put Frogger on there? Or?
Okay, so their launch lineup now is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Attack on Titan 2, Final Battle 2, Destiny 2, The Collection, which I guess is just like the Game of the Year edition.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, they're referring to it as a collection, which I'm assuming just means it's the Shadowkeeper down.
I know it. A lot of Founders editions came with that Destiny bundled in.
Farming Simulator 2019, Final Fantasy 15, Football Manager 2020, Grid 2019, Guilt, which is the exclusive Stadia game, Just Dance 2020, Kine, Metro Exodus, Mortal Kombat 11, NBA 2K20, Rage 2, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Mortal Kombat is on that list?
Mortal Kombat 11 is on that list.
Holy crap. Like, you want to talk about a way to test your lag.
Yes, that is going to be kind of huge in terms of is that functional. Red Dead Redemption 2, which is pretty cool, because Red Dead Redemption 2 right now on PC is having a lot of challenges with like people configuring Red Dead Redemption 2 to work properly and work at the best it can work. Stadia is supposed to take all of that out, all that like work out of the user's hands and give you the best version possible. Will they be able to hit it?
No.
Probably not. Samurai Showdown, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Thumper, which is another game that lag is going to be very important. It's a music game. Tomb Raider 2013, Trials Rising, Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Trials Rising is also another like precision timing game. Like I mean, it'll be interesting. I hope this does not fail. Like, I mean, I genuinely hope it does not fail. But the writing on the wall is very, very bleak for me right now. Like, how is it not possible that you don't have somebody or somebodies playing this? You know, so like, pay a Twitch streamer. Like,
Yeah.
why are you not doing this? Find a Twitch streamer, find a YouTuber, like anybody, like anybody that
think,
carries any, like, how, play the game on there.
I think they would be worried about giving it to like an influencer, is if that influencer does not have the perfect internet connection, they would not want that to get out. But I know that's going to be important. That's going to be something they have to deal with day one.
But a popular Twitch streamer has your ideal conditions of what Stadia wants from their players. They have internet. Like, if you give it to Shroud, or you give it to Ninja, or Dr. Disrespect, or Gathalion, or Dr. Lupo, or any of those guys have internet, like, upload and downloads in like the fiber levels probably, and, you know, like, in terms of,
you would hope.
Yeah, they have to, for to the extent of what they're, you know, able to, what their streams are able to take. Yeah.
How come Stadia hasn't launched in the Google Fiber city in Kansas? like if there's a perfect place to do a test run, it would be there.
Yeah, go find the top Mortal Kombat player. Go find a top 5 or top 10 Mortal Kombat player and say, hey, we want to send you a Stadia. Will you play the game and stream it and give us your thoughts on it? I don't get it.
That would be Sonic Fox. That would be a good partnership for Stadia to do. Yeah. Of like, Sonic Fox can kick your ass on Stadia.
Hey, it works. Like, I mean, for a top tier, you know, like, fighter to say, hey, it works. Like, there's nobody. You're just getting these people that like cool tech to buy your tech.
Yeah.
I can throw my controller in my backpack and take it to a hotel. Not if you don't take your 4K Ultra Chromecast with you. You can't.
It's funny. Like, even the Buddy Pass. Remember the Buddy Pass thing that comes with the Founders Edition? Which lets your friend get like 3 months of Stadia. Apparently that won't be activated until 2 weeks after you get your Stadia bundle. Your Founders bundle. So you're going to get your Stadia. I'm assuming that means the reason they're doing that is because then hopefully maybe in 2 weeks the Chromecast Ultras, everyone's Chromecast Ultras, will get the firmware update they need for Stadia.
Then you need to delay your launch 2 weeks.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a full internet thing. It feels beta as hell. I would rather there be a delay than it feel super beta.
Especially when there's so many games that are coming out right now, and so I mean, like, this has got tragedy written all over it right now. And then when it's unfortunate, and again, it's a broad example, but if Stadia gets the Ouya stigmatism to it, it's done.
Yeah, the good and bad thing about it being Google is Google will stay with a project they feel is worth it for as long as they need to.
Unless people aren't using it, and then they bail on it.
Yes, yeah, they have gone on both ends of the spectrum, to where Stadia, I would assume, needed to hit the ground running. It doesn't look like it's going to do that, so God, that tech better work. If they're doing this staggered launch with all these missing features, and it has day one Disney Plus issues, they're fucked. Like, if they, like, imagine how crazy it would be in 2 days. Obviously, when this is released audio, we'll know what happened. But if there are connection issues day one and they did this staggered featureless launch, that's going to be bad. Like, super, super terrible for, like, the immediate future of Stadia. They probably invested too much money to pull the plug on, you know, within a year.
Oof,
but
sorry.
They might, you know, go from being super excited to it to, it's a thing we have. People can release games if they want. But it's kind of crazy. I expected a little bit more.
Yeah. So, all right. What we're planning on watching. So, you want to go first?
Yeah. For me, it has been a ton of Outer Worlds on PC. I adore the game so much. I mentioned last week it has that Firefly vibe. Um, I've just been enjoying the hell out of that game. I have my Kaylee-like companion. I already have a shepherd on my team. Like I'm basically building the Firefly cast as my companions, and I'm enjoying it. I did come across like after playing like 6 to 8 hours of it, the humor, which is really good, is super dark, and it is definitely like the dystopian future of just if corporations got their way to the max. And it was one of those things where it made me hate corporations more than I already did, to where I'm playing this game and I just kind of hated my job even more. Just because it's just basically corporations just took over everything. They run amok. You'll go into terminals and you'll find like memos from corporations being like, hey, if you're sick, you owe the corporation money. Like your sick time actually is like taken out of your check, as opposed to, you earning sick time to take care of yourself. If someone commits suicide, the person near the person that committed suicide has to pay penalties for not stopping the company property from killing itself. It's like super dark. It's hilarious, but man, at the end of it, I'm like, fuck corporations. And just think back to like memos that I've received from my jobs over the years of just being like, oh god damn it, this is basically what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This is the future. This sucks. But I'm enjoying it. There's weird things that I've been having to deal with control wise. The menu stuff isn't that great. Like tracking multiple quests really isn't a thing. You can only check, like one quest at a time. But it's just been like minor gameplay stuff. In that vein, that's been issues that I've been having. But otherwise, I've just been like just hooked on the story and the dark humor. Even though the dark humor at the end of it is just like kind of depressing. But I guess that's like the best dark humor. If you think about it, in terms of it's so dark, there's like truths to it, and also it's just like really depressing to where you laugh and you're just like, oof, god, that hurts. But I can totally see this future happening. The gunplay's fine. It is what it is. Like it's similar to like the Fallout gunplay. It's Obsidian. They haven't been really known for their combat, or at least for a long time they haven't. So I've been just, talking my way out of most situations just because the gunplay's kind of whatever. But the talking yourself out of situation stuff's really good.
Yeah, that would never work for me. I would definitely like just shoot first.
I used to be like that, but for this game, the writing is just good enough that I'm enjoying like playing characters, and the game gives you some really tough decisions, and sometimes those tough decisions come from getting, using dialogue to get out of situations, to where I've been enjoying seeing stuff play out that way as opposed to shoot first. Though I've been in some situations where I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to shoot first out of the situation. So playing that still, I'm really dragging this game out just because I'm enjoying doing like all the side quests that are available to me. Continuing the Dragon Age journey with Sarah, we just finished like chapter 1 in Dragon Age 2. Night and day better than Dragon Age 1 in terms of just visual and structure of the game.
Still on PS3, right?
Still on PS3, but it took a big leap, even though it was only like 2 to 3 years. I think Dragon Age was 2009. Dragon Age 2 was 2011, 2012. So even just a 2-year difference, they made like technical leaps and bounds that make it hold up significantly better than Dragon Age 1. But the main thing I've been playing, because last week I only talked about purchasing it, I've been playing a fair amount of Death Stranding. And I've been streaming it. I streamed like the first 2 hours of the game, and I played a little bit after that. Uh, you can watch the stream. It's mostly me just reacting to the cutscenes because in that first 2 hours, I think maybe I played 15, 20 minutes of like actually controlling Norman Reedus, his, model. And even then, that was just me trying to make him feel uncomfortable as I zoom the camera into his crotch. Or making him go to the bathroom because apparently that's a thing you can do and you have to do.
With an ad.
With an ad for his real life show every time you take a shit, which is just fucking confusing. But like Kojima don't care. Like he can do what he wants. He can make Monster Energy the only drink you can have in that entire game, which I have to confirm this, but when I was playing it, when you drink something because you have to keep Sam Porter Bridges or Norman Reedus hydrated, it says Monster Energy. So he's constantly drinking Monster Energy for hydration. But you also refill your canteen when you walk through rivers. But my canteen always says Monster Energy, which makes me think that the river is made of Monster Energy, which I want that to be like canon. And that's where I think the world went wrong. It's the idiocracy. They killed the plants because
let's make Monster Energy come out of the faucet.
Yes, or like we killed all the plants because we thought plants craved electrolytes, so we gave them Gatorade. I'm just going with Monster Energy is flowing through the water, and that's where the world went wrong. I'm like 5 hours into the game. It's batshit crazy. I don't know how to explain this game other than it's fucking insanity. And every single time, I think the game can't top itself with where the story's going or how crazy the story is or how confusing the story is. The game just says, hold my beer, and just keeps adding on top of itself. And I feel like when Norman Reedus is walking around with a shit ton of packages on his back and he can barely stand up straight and barely, walk a straight line, I feel like that's a metaphor for Kojima balancing the story. Like, they are trying everything they can to keep this story afloat, and I'm here for all of this bullshit. I wish there was a little bit more to do in the game, because so far, again, like 5-6 hours in, I'm just delivering packages, and from what I can tell, that is all I'm doing. It's super weird. It's kind of relaxing, except when like the BTs are out and running around, which are like the bad guys. You can't really fight them too much, or at least so far I can't. It's just delivering packages with a weird premise behind them all. I don't want to spoil anything in case anyone's like waiting to pick this game up. We might have a long-form discussion on this game in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking to get a couple people on the show to facilitate a conversation with Michael on this. So it'll be interesting to hear the dynamic back and forth between, maybe somebody that's beaten it and somebody that's maybe not as far into it and things like that.
Yeah, I just... The game is just kind of crazy. It's weird, but I like crazy and weird, so I'm willing to do it. Every time I play it, though, Dave, I think of you and be like, Dave would fucking hate this. Like... Because you don't really like tedious gameplay, and the gameplay in this is pretty tedious. The fact that if I'm not holding L2 and R2 down like the entire time, my packages on my back will sway left and right. So I have to, and you can always like shift your body weight by hitting L2 or R2. But I just found that just holding L2 and R2 at all times, you don't have to do that. You'll walk slower, but you don't have to do that. I'm just enjoying delivering packages and then waiting for a 20-minute cutscene to explain why I'm delivering packages and seeing what crazy cameos and celebrities Kojima decided to use or have. It's insane. It's insane. I fucking love it.
Like, I don't get it. Like, you sit there and say that you don't really know what's happening, and you're only delivering packages, but you're like everybody else all of a sudden now. Like, game's kind of boring, but it's 9.5. I'm like, what?
No. I would never. I like honestly, if I were to grade this game on my first 6 hours, I'm like, this is like a good 7, a weird 7. I don't understand like the super high scores for it, but I also don't understand the super low scores for it.
So
I think it's a game that had like promise that might not have it did deliver on everything you would expect. It doesn't have like the gameplay aspects of the Metal Gear games, but if you look back at like Metal Gear Solid 4, he brought in some people from like Western developers to help work on the gameplay for like Metal Gear Solid 4, and I think that's why Metal Gear Solid 4 is really good, and he learned that for Metal Gear Solid 5. This is Kojima like Unchained, and this is what you get with Kojima Unchained, and it might not be the best Kojima, or it might not be Kojima at his best, because he might need an editor.
right.
He might need some more gameplay people.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you find yourself delivering the package because you want to deliver the package, or do you find yourself delivering the package because you want to see the next cutscene?
Because I want to see the next cutscene.
So the gameplay is a means to continue the story, but not a means to have fun?
Yes, exactly.
That sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible for you, but like for me, I like the cutscenes. I just wish that from people I know that beat the game, they put like 40 to 60 hours into it. I don't know if I want to do that.
So the story's not compelling enough to you to continue delivering the packages to see what happens next.
I don't have like the time for a 40 to 60 hour story, and I know there's not 40 to 60 hours of story in this game.
No, there's 30 hours of story in the game, and there's 15 hours of walking.
Which is great, which means that maybe the best solution for me on this game would be something that JP Snake in the chat mentioned. I might just be best going on YouTube and watching a compilation video of all the cutscenes. Like, honestly, if I want to get what I'm enjoying from this game, that might be my best scenario. But I spent $60 on this game, so I'm going to do it the hard way. Like,
because my money said so.
Okay, this wasn't on PS Now. Okay, damn it. So I spent $60 on this. So
he spent $60 on it to entertain you guys, the listeners.
Yeah, and I will continue to stream it here and there. So hopefully, I don't know what's like the best or worst case scenario for when I stream this game. When I streamed it the first 2 times, I'm like, man, I'm barely playing this. And then I'm thinking like, man, what if there's like a 5-hour stretch where all I'm doing is delivering packages with no cutscenes?
You better be talking a lot to that chat, buddy.
Yeah, like I don't know what's like the best or worst case scenario for streaming it, so I'll probably just hop in and out of streaming it.
You and Sarah have like a conversation about like the grocery store or something like that.
Yeah, like well, if I do run into a stretch, like I might need to look at some game guides and know like, hey, from this point on, like it's just delivering packages. Then I might just have to have Disney Plus in the background. So I can just like have something else entertaining me while I'm delivering packages.
Oh my gosh.
But okay, that's it for playing. All my other time has been dedicated to Disney Plus, which Dave, I don't know if you subscribe to it just yet.
Dude, I have 3 kids. Like,
okay, yeah, so you did, yeah.
He doesn't want to watch any of it though.
He's like, no. First thing I did is I searched for Alley Cat Strike, and then I watched Alley Cat Strike. Then I fell into the hole of watching The Simpsons until I realized it looked weird, and then I looked on the internet, and the internet confirmed that they fucked up the aspect ratio of The Simpsons. So I stopped watching The Simpsons, and then I've just been consuming random stuff on Disney Plus almost every night. Like I've already seen Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Mulan. Started watching the X-Men animated series, the 90s one, a little bit of X-Men Evolutions from the 2000s, couple National Geographic documentaries on wolves. I'm consuming so much content right now from Disney Plus. It's crazy. And I haven't turned Netflix on in several weeks. I only turned on Netflix yesterday because the Toys That Made Us has a new season, and they have episode about wrestling toys and
like
Power
Turtles
Rangers.
and Power Rangers. Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
So.
Which wrestling toys and Power Rangers are the only toys I really collected as a kid, other than like X-Men and Marvel toys.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like the only reason I'm turning on Netflix to. After Disney Plus and Hulu stepped up, with some shows that I'm watching, Netflix might be on a chopping block for me because I'm, other than Glow, there's not many things that I want on Netflix.
They signed some deal with Nickelodeon this week, though, didn't they?
They did.
Netflix, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Netflix signed a deal with Nickelodeon, though I don't know if that means they're pulling the stuff off Hulu just yet. Because like Hey Arnold and Rugrats, that's on Hulu, and I've already gone through that a couple times over the last couple years. Because I'm a millennial, so we just watch shit from our childhood and think about the old days. Just way too much. But yeah, they signed a deal with Netflix, and they're gonna like reboot some shows or continue some shows, which is cool. And it's animation, so it's probably gonna be like a year or two before we see like the fruits of that.
Yeah.
But till then, I might end up canceling Netflix. The only problem is, like, I got like 4 family members that are like leeching off my Netflix account. So if I cancel it, I'll probably get a phone call. And I'm leeching off Sarah's Disney Plus. So like I can't. I mean, I probably could just be like, hey, I don't have Netflix anymore. Here's Disney Plus. Enjoy. But Disney Plus actually has like 4 concurrent streams at a time.
I think so. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Like, it's a really good deal. I'm just waiting for them to do the thing they're gonna do in a year or two, where they're just gonna like be like, oh, you really like Disney Plus? Yeah, we're $12.99 now.
Like something like 10 million people downloaded it like in the first couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see how long it stays, or like what it does or doesn't do. I mean, so I found myself like putzing through it. So Tuesday it came out, and Michigan got smacked with snow on Monday. So like I think I put something on Facebook that like, oh wow, Disney does own everything. They just put an Arctic blast on the Midwest the day that their app comes out, so people are stuck at home. So like my wife was like watching like Sound of Music and some other movies on there that she didn't realize would be on there. Like 10 Things I Hate About You is on there. Things like that. When I got home, I watched like the first episode of Darkwing Duck, and I was like, I don't really remember like how this show started, and it doesn't really have a start. It kind of just goes.
A lot of shows from like the 80s and 90s just kind of do that, where it's like, we're not going to give you an origin, we're just going to go for it.
Yeah, so I was like, and I also found myself just putzing, like listening to a theme song and then just going to something else, like at the beginning. Trying to get Owen to watch like Gummy Bears, and he wasn't having it.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
So we haven't quite figured out any, like a huge aspect of stuff on there that Owen necessarily wants to watch, and I haven't had a chance to super dig into it as well. But I mean, I'll just do some of my watching stuff. So I watched Mandalorian, both episodes. Don't really have.
How are they releasing those? Like weekly?
I think every Friday, I think, is the thing now. So I think they had one on Tuesday. They had episode 1 go with launch, and then episode 2 came out on Friday. So I don't know if that means like in like 4 or 5 more days, like we're gonna see the next one. I was actually a little surprised. I feel like they were only like 30 minutes or 35 minutes, so I didn't feel like it wasn't very long. I was like, oh, it's over already. And I don't really have a clue as what's going on. So again, I feel like a little bit more character building in there would have been better, and I know that might be the mystery, the mystery behind it might be part of what it's going for. But I mean, it appears to be good, and I can already feel like what I'm thinking is happening isn't what's happening, because it can't be like that obvious to me. What they're showing. Have you watched any of it yet?
No, I haven't. I might just wait till it's finished.
Okay.
And then just binge it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll keep watching and trying to figure out what's going on. But the little bit that they seem to be showing, I mean, there's definitely familiar characters in there, and familiar scenarios and stuff like that. So, of where like the sand people are there and their big ship or their big tank, and they're taking things and stuff like that, like the typical Star Wars banter and things like that, are in there. And then because of Fallen Order, I kind of was on a kick. I started watching just Star Wars in general. My wife was out of town for the weekend, so I started on episode 4, and I watched episode 4, and I watched episode 5, and I fell asleep, not because episode 5 was boring, but just because it was late. And just trying to understand it, because I picked up, or like you mentioned earlier, I picked up Origins Premiere on PC. It costs $14.99 for the month, for a month, every month, and it had Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
The deluxe edition.
Yes, premium or something. So I was kind of on the fence about this, and I have this, gaming PC, and I wanted to check it out, and $15 is better than $60.
Yeah.
There's other games that I can play in there.
Yeah, I told one of my coworkers that. He's like, I bought it. I don't know if I should. I'm like, you open it yet? He's like, no. You got a PC, right? He's like, yep. Get it on PC.
Yeah. So the first thing, and I asked this on Twitter this today, and I also, reached out to a couple other people. I did see on a couple of reviews where people were saying that there's some performance issues. I think it's 50-50. I've determined I feel like it's 50-50. So my PC isn't like super high end or anything like that. And, you keep using that website, Can I Run This, or whatever it's called. And I ran it, it analyzed my PC, and for minimum settings, I can run Fallen Order. Recommended settings, I fell a little short. Graphics card, I think, or something like that. Maybe, or processor. I don't remember what it was. Video RAM. I don't remember. But I do find myself running into performance issues, mostly coming out of cutscenes or in scenarios where I'm moving very, very fast.
The out of cutscene one makes sense. It is Unreal Engine, so Unreal Engine sometimes can have like pop-in.
Yes, happening. And I am seeing that as well. Yes.
Yeah, so what I'm guessing is happening, no matter, even if you had a high-end PC, there's pop-in on Unreal Engine. I'm guessing the game coming out of a load screen or a cutscene is still loading the world in, and then if you're moving a little bit too much and the world's not ready filling in, it's causing an issue.
Yeah. So, I mean, none of it has been like game breaking or anything like that. Sometimes, like you're saying, like, and it makes sense because I feel like the game has to catch up to where I am. Like going down an elevator, causes some problems and things like that. Like going down the elevator or up an elevator, going down the ice slides, and I get down, and I usually just find myself just stopping for a second and like kind of letting the game catch up. And I've ran into a couple scenarios, like briefly for like a couple of seconds, where the performance has affected me in combat. But for the most part, it's been much, much more fun than I was really even thinking. When we saw this game revealed at E3, where they actually saw gameplay, I was like, that just doesn't look that fun to me. And it's the complete opposite. Managing a lightsaber is way more fun than I would have ever thought. Using the force mechanics it fits, and it's very rewarding when you execute it correctly, where you like just have a smile on your face by doing that. And then just traversing through the world, it feels very much like a Zelda game with like almost like an Infamous style traversal system of climbing and puzzle solving. And yes, it's got a little bit of Uncharted and Tomb Raider and into it, but looking and figuring things out. And the puzzles are better than an Uncharted puzzle. Like the couple of the temples that I've been in, the puzzles are super cool, and they use like that's why I feel like it's a Zelda thing. They use more of the mechanic that you learn in that area, and you use that mechanic to complete the puzzle and to move on to the next area. Something that I have a problem with the game is what a lot of my friends are telling me is the Dark Souls aspect of this game.
That's what I was going to just bring up.
It has a very punishing checkpoint system.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has a very high risk reward save point system. So when you find meditation points or areas that you can save at, as long as you get there.
Bonfires.
You find one, you save. You can access your skill tree at that point in time and use your skill tree points to upgrade your lightsaber, upgrade your force ability, or upgrade your health. And you can also rest at this meditation point. And when you rest at the meditation point, it gives you your little health, your health regen packs back that BD1 carries for you. But if you run out of those and you die, then you go back to the last meditation point that you were at, and the game essentially like resets. You have the ability to get your XP and upgrades and things like that back from the enemy that killed you by just striking that enemy. So like when you come into an area, that enemy will glow like an orange, and he will when you hit him, it'll tell you like you got your XP back, and you know, because you lose whatever XP you had gained when you die and go back to that meditation point, but you can get it back, and your force abilities and your skills and things like that, or your skill as you're filling the meter up. If your meter was halfway full and you died, and as you get back to him, your meter's only like 10% full, and you hit him, it'll go up back to the halfway point where it was. So there's that aspect to it, and like I said, solving the puzzles and things like that are very fun, but some scenarios in the game, I was like, oh wow, there's another meditation point, there's another meditation point, there's another meditation point, or another save point. And some of that just has to do with the way the level's laid out when you're opening up shortcuts, because you're going to go back to these areas, and opening up these shortcuts makes it easier for you to get from point A to point B when you're trying to progress through, kind of like a Metroidvania style thing where you have the ability to get closer, you know, as you can only open the doors as you go all the way around and kind of loop back and then open the door that takes you back where you came from, so that when you come back there, you go through that door and you've already cut, 5 minutes or 10 minutes off your time of getting through there. But there was a scenario that I ran into on stream the other day that I had to kill like so many enemies and kill like an elite stormtrooper, and I kept running into like issues, and like I think that I probably had to go through this encounter like 15 or 16 times, because I would get there and I'd be low on health, or I'd have a problem fighting something, or the stupid drones that shoot at you that are far enough away from you that you have to perfectly time your lightsaber thing, and it was frustrating, and then getting past that point was so like relaxing that I was like, oh cool, I got past that point, and then I went up the area and went into this other room and got eaten by an animal, and I'm dead, and I'm back to that other meditation point that I was before, and I had to go through all those enemies that I killed already and kill them again to just hopefully be in good enough shape to go up in that room and fight that animal that just killed me, to not only get my XP back but progress through the level. Mm-hmm. But moving that aside, like that is similar to like how God of War's checkpoint system had worked at a certain point in times, where sometimes in certain areas the checkpoint system was unforgiving. Mostly God of War 3, I remember having a very unforgiving checkpoint system, or Ascension. Pushing that off to the side, the environments look amazing, the puzzles look great. I think I'm playing like on medium settings, and I've moved it around medium, high, max, different settings, and I've still had the performance issues. People have came into the stream and thought the game looked really, really good on stream, and I stream at 720p, and I was playing the game at low or medium settings. I think it's as low as I think I can go medium, high, or epic. I think is what it's called, and people thought the game looked really good. The lightsaber combat is great. The customization of your lightsaber, there's so many. It's very refreshing to see loot or items come out of chests that can be used as cosmetics that don't require a loot box or a microtransaction. I can change my poncho. I can change the lightsaber. I can change like the color of BD1. Change the color of my ship. So that's all very it rewards you for moving around and looking for things. And I'm having a blast with it. And I'm not a huge Star Wars guy. Like, I'm not this person that's like super into Star Wars. Like, I bought the Origins premiere because I was very worried that I was going to play this game for like 5 or 6 hours and walk away from it. And now I kind of want to know what's going on in the story. I'm liking the character that I'm playing. I'm liking the cutscenes and the new unique story that Respawn is trying to play. I do find it very hilarious that every time you die, they get to advertise their company's name, because it says Respawn across the screen. You have to press X to do it.
It would only be perfect if they had a little TM at the end of it.
But I think they did a great job so far. as far as I've gotten to control like walkers. I've fought some interesting, unique enemies, and seeing like taking a lightsaber and cutting an animal in half is very rewarding. Upgrading the lightsaber,
That sounds so bad.
You can cut animals in half, but you can't cut stormtroopers in half.
Crazy.
They had to keep that T for teen rating. Fighting them through, like going into combat of a lot of blocking and learning how to parry correctly. Like I've always kind of struggled at those parry games that it require a lot of timing, but it is very rewarding when you do it correctly. It's very cool. Like a couple people have jumped into the stream and see me fighting and they're like, oh wow, you're doing really good. I'm like, yeah, you haven't seen me the last 13 times just fail at it. But it's never been to the point where like, you know what, I'm done, I'm walking away. Like I haven't got to that frustration point level. I was getting close the other day, but it didn't happen. So if you were on the fence about this at all, if you like Star Wars, I really think you'll like this. If you've liked any third-person, for the most part, third-person action puzzle-style game, like an Uncharted, a Darksiders, a Zelda, Infamous, any of those kind of games where you get to traverse and climb and swing and figure things out, puzzling that way, then you're going to like this game. And then it just happens to be Star Wars as well. So it's a really cool universe and story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah, that depth that we didn't really know what was there. Like, I don't think EA did a really good job presenting the game during E3. That depth has made me want to look into getting Premiere. Not quite buy the game at $60, but look into Premiere for that $15 buy-in. Because of that depth that I heard you talk about, and then just seeing some of the... I was worried it was just going to be just a hack and slash. I mean, kind of is, but like hearing at the puzzle, like the puzzles are actually pretty good. The story seems to be like there enough.
I mean, their puzzles are to the point where I had to stop and think and evaluate and then do trial and error. Like they're not like 100% like obvious.
Which Uncharted was really bad at puzzles, I hate to say.
The puzzles and their set pieces were really the puzzles themselves were bland, cool, but they looked really cool. And then as you executed them, you got really cool rewards for them. I feel like the Fallen Order's puzzles maybe don't necessarily look as cool, but are complex enough that you have to kind of like really think and like, is this gonna work? Nope. Is that gonna work? Nope. Is that gonna work? Oh yeah, that worked. Okay, and now let me move on. And then just hope that you don't die and get screwed and get pushed back farther and have to kill more things just to get back to that point.
Yeah. But I'm glad to hear that. I can't wait to see if you finish it. I might, if I have time, just pull the trigger on it and just go for it and try it, so we can have a little bit of a spoiler talk about it. Just because it does sound cool enough. It's just a matter of I gotta finish. Like my goal is to finish Outer Worlds or Death Stranding, and the next game I get would probably be Fallen Order, just because I've been hearing everything I like about it.
So that has been, for the most part, what consumed my weekend. I kind of fell on this like Star Wars kind of binge, just in general. So, I did go see Terminator: Dark Fate. I think that's what it's called.
Probably.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was pretty much what I expected it to be. It looks like they're trying to kick off another version, another timeline, to possibly build on top of it. But I didn't really see any like huge, sequel teases or anything like that. Just an interesting, aspect of a timeline of the next person. But I enjoyed it, like the tie-ins to the old movies, while still expanding into like what could possibly be a different timeline and another, couple of movies to build on top of that. It was good, and kind of where you thought I was going to go was where it was. The fight scenes were very cool. The new Terminator that is hunting them they always seem to improve them from the first Arnold to the T-1000 to, I don't even remember what this one was called. It seemed like the name was too long. But it was a very interesting dynamic of how he evolves and things like that, and how the new version of Skynet is being fought, and kind of like this other Terminator or this other Protector that's the timeline. The Terminator timeline is, I'm not spoiling anything. They sent a Terminator to kill something in the past to stop something in the future, and then the future Resistance sends something to protect him. Like, that's the same concept of Terminator's always been. And this
It
one
never seems to work out, but they continue to try it.
Yeah. So the twist of what happens at the beginning with how it ties in to telling a personal story was also very good. So I do intend on, at this point in time, continuing to watch Star Wars in order. I'm going to watch episode 1, 2, and 3 just because I want to have a better understanding of things. Because I never really think that I gave them a fair shake, before, but I do need to kind of see. But I am going to watch them in the order that they were released. So I'll watch 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, I guess maybe 7, and then Rogue One. And, I still haven't seen, I don't think I've ever seen Solo.
No, I haven't either. I heard it was actually better than people expected.
Yeah,
That's about
and
it.
then there was another one that came out after Solo, right?
Rogue One, Solo. I think it's just Rogue One and Solo.
It wasn't Lando or
No, Lando is in Solo. There was rumors there was going to be a Lando movie, but Solo didn't do well. I could be wrong.
But that's it for me for playing and watching. We're gonna move on to our community questions. You guys can send those through us to Twitter, Facebook, email, any of that stuff. Email digitaldaysgaming@gmail.com. On Twitter, you can use hashtag AskDigitalDays. Facebook, you can just post it in the Facebook group or on the Facebook page. And Michael has started a massive Google Doc that he keeps claiming he's going to share with me, and he never has.
I should do that. I can do that right now.
Of all the questions that you guys are sending him. So if you don't hear your question right away, don't feel like it's been passed up. He's adding it to the doc, and it might become more relevant in a couple of weeks, and then we'll answer it then. But for the most part, it's going to be questions, and we'll come to a point in time where like news is light and we'll do more questions, or we just need to use some kind of filler, any of that stuff to do that. So questions can be anything. We would love the more randomness, the better. They don't have to be gaming related or anything like that. So
currently I have this Google Doc broken down into gaming, miscellaneous, and wrestling.
Please don't fill the wrestling section up, guys. Please don't do that.
Hey, I'm going to NXT this coming weekend, so sending them wrestling questions.
Any guest recommendations to take my spot next week? digitaldaysgaming@gmail.com.
I'll just do it live on Twitch from the arena.
All right. You want to read the first one?
Yeah, this is from Billy503 Solid. Will you guys ever do reviews on the website? And sorry, that was the only part of the question. Do we ever plan to do written reviews and basically maintain a full-blown website? Dave answered this on Twitter, but figured would answer it on the show as well. Dave, answer.
The intention right now is to do no written content. Will that work 100%? I don't know. For the most part, the written content seemed to be what really bothered Michael and myself in terms of doing a lot of stuff. And I want to see how, like I talked about earlier in the show, I want to see how pulling snippets of audio out of our conversations and posting them as video reviews over gameplay works, or even Michael and I have talked about Michael just recording something himself, by himself, having a conversation or reviewing a game and then posting that as a video, and the possibility of posting that as a podcast separate episode, whether that's 12 minutes or 15 minutes or 7 minutes or 35 minutes. But I feel like people aren't reading as much anymore as they used to.
Yeah, we've seen how it is like with the website. The challenge is with like just a 2-person team, places will look at, like when we're pitching to like, hey, we want to cover, your game, they'll want to look at like a written website's traffic, but because it's only me and Dave, website traffic can only really be maintained if you're just hitting a ton of articles. Like if me and Dave are just posting a review maybe once every 2-3 weeks, then the website traffic just isn't good enough because there's not daily traffic because there's not active posts. If we were like a fuller staff and could maintain a website that has multiple posts a day, then we would consider doing it. But because it's me and Dave, it's just more manageable for us to just stick to what we feel like we do best, which is up for debate. And that's podcasts.
I suck at writing.
No, I'm talking about, releasing a weekly podcast, releasing our stuff on YouTube and producing YouTube videos. We feel like it's a good focus there. And we just want to focus on that. Maybe in the future we could get into written, but right now, for the foreseeable future, the only thing we have in plans are just to do audio content and video content. And to be honest, has anyone seen Ninja like write anything down? So it's working out really well for him. So hopefully Dave becomes really good at Fortnite is what I'm hoping.
But ultimately, like, it's going to be kind of what you guys consume. And we feel like as fast as we've grown on Twitter, just through a little bit of word of mouth and through following us from previous regimes, and as fast as like we've gotten some things to happen for us on Twitch, and the YouTube subscriptions and the content aren't like I've seen the like things are going to plateau a little bit, but we're in a marathon, like we're not in a sprint, and I have to tell myself that every day. We're building things, and you guys are all here at the very beginning of that. Like we're building, like I said a couple weeks ago, we're building the foundation, and we're going to shape the house and decorate the house as we see fit, and that will change as it goes. Like maybe we need to make an expansion that it requires some type of written content or something like that. But right now, for the most part, the feedback that we've gotten from listeners and viewers is that so far that this is good, and PR isn't like, where's my 2100 document that tells me how bad my game is? Like,
yeah, everything's. I mean, it's not new. Video content is where a lot of things are. Podcasting is where things are. Written word, as much as I do enjoy writing reviews, it's really hard to balance that content. And if you're doing written reviews, you also need to be doing news. Editorial pieces. You need to do everything for that to become like viable, and just right now it just doesn't make sense. And I think like we're doing okay just doing this. And
the return on investment and the time factor of the amount of time spent writing, editing, spell checking, proofing, and then posting, and versus the amount of traffic that hits it didn't seem like it was worth it, and my goal with our YouTube content gives you the ability, if you choose, and even Twitch, like there's a bunch of you watching live on Twitch right now, but you can also set this up on Twitch and set your phone down and work on something else and listen and don't feel like you're missing out on anything. If you want to look at our faces, you can, they're there. And the same thing with YouTube. If you want to look at random Call of Duty multiplayer gameplay, it's there. But if you just want to listen to Michael and I have a conversation about Modern Warfare in the car, where you can just plug it in and set YouTube down on your seat, or you again can just prop it open maybe while you're making dinner or something like that. You can do both. So you can, and it gives you that option of a 7-minute video that maybe takes an hour to produce, an hour and a half to produce, versus written content that takes sometimes days.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Next question.
Yep.
That would be you, Dave.
Okay.
I read the last one.
Randy Pinnock, give one game for each of your systems over your life that makes that system for you. #AskDigitalDays. You want to go first?
Okay. So mine, I actually wrote mine down. So the systems that I have had throughout my life, first one would be the Sega Genesis. Streets of Rage is my personal favorite, but for me, Mortal Kombat is the game that makes the Genesis for me, or was like a reason to play the Genesis, because It was the arcade Mortal Kombat in your home. And man, I'm looking at the arcade 1-up machines and kind of want to get a Mortal Kombat one because of that. And then from there, I went from Genesis to the N64. Well, actually, from the Genesis to the PlayStation. So sorry, I'll do PlayStation. And Twisted Metal would be my PlayStation game. I rented that from Blockbuster / Hollywood Video so much that I eventually bought it and then continued to play that for like the several years that I was on a PlayStation. So Twisted Metal is not only one of my favorites from that generation, but definitely like I would consider like a pillar of the PlayStation. I feel like Sweet Tooth is, iconic and like forever associated with like the PS1. Then PS2 is where I get like the real hard choice. It's either Kingdom Hearts or Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I can't decide, and I won't decide because you can't make me decide, and I just can't. Those are
make a decision.
No, I can't. I play those games almost yearly. There's no way for me to choose one or the other. Then PS3 is Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 is I consider that game almost damn near perfect. And God, the set pieces I love Uncharted 3. I adore Uncharted 4, but I feel like I'm still chasing the highs from the set pieces of Uncharted 2. And Uncharted 2 is one of those games that it made that whole console generation. Like it made like the PS3 like finally stand out after being kind of like the second console for, to the Xbox 360. Like that was like the first big showpiece for PlayStation was Uncharted 2. Or at least during that generation. And then the PS4 is Spider-Man because Spider-Man's perfect. Dave?
All right. NES was the first one that I had in my house, and Michael sent me this question much earlier today, and I was thinking about it, and I still have a hard time thinking of a game that, was critical. I mean, I have crazy memories of playing a lot of games with my brother, so that's where like Tecmo Bowl comes from. But I mean, obviously, like Mario, Super Mario, those kind of games are always going to be iconic to me. So, and then Super Nintendo, it's again like Link to the Past is one that sticks in my head a lot. Because again, I spent a lot of time playing Zelda games. But I also have very fond memories of Street Fighter because I was that button masher kid for a long time, and my brother is 10 years older than me. And my brother got pissed off at me because I was beating him with Blanca, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And it wasn't like a 1 or 2 match thing. It was like a 6, 7, 8 match in a row thing. Kept doing that little electrical ball attack thing, and it was just driving him nuts.
You still need to watch High Score Girl since you love Street Fighter. It's good anime about 90s arcades. Continue.
And then N64, Mario 64, just because of what that game did in terms of like the 3D games and things like an aspect of like I still have crazy memories of jumping through paintings and then also just star chasing, like trying to get to 120 stars and hearing different rumors about what happens at the top of the castle when you get to 120 stars, and the fact that I think it's 120 and I might be right is the crazy part. GameCube, I struggled with this one a little bit because I had a PS2 very briefly, and I believe I actually got rid of the PS2 to get the GameCube because they announced Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and I still have memories of playing that early on and thinking like, this is not a Zelda game, and going through the process, and then something happens in that game about 30% through where I was like, where all these things were starting to link, no pun intended, link together and make sense. And to where it was like that aha moment for me where I was like, wow, like this is really cool. Like this, the twist in the story that they told of, what was going on, of where you were actually above Hyrule and Hyrule had been flooded. And that was really cool. For PS3, it's Infamous. And the reason it's Infamous is because right after the PSN outage, that was when I first got introduced to the PlayStation Store online. And Infamous was one of the games that you got to pick for free. And that's when I started, playing Infamous, and then I was like, oh, I like Infamous, and that's when the other things started rolling into me getting my love out of sports games that I was just heavily into for a very long time, and into Infamous, and Infamous led to Uncharted, and Uncharted led to all these other games of finding out about so many cool games. And then PS4 is Destiny and Destiny 2. Those games, Destiny at its core changed how I play video games. And the fact that I'm sitting in this chair right now having this conversation with Michael and on our own project is because of Destiny.
Yeah, if you picked anything other than Destiny, I would have been like, fuck you.
Right. So, that game changed my life. Whether people think that's for the good or for the bad, that's your own preference. This changed how I view gaming.
Yeah, no, that was definitely very important to you. That's why I almost picked Killzone 2, because I kind of wouldn't be doing this now if it wasn't for Killzone 2. But I had to go with Uncharted. And then let's go with the last question, which is a non-gaming, non-wrestling related question, which is why I picked it to go last. At BBN Kyle on Twitter asked, grilled cheese or PB&J? Preferences, please. Dave, you probably have a weird answer for this because you have weird food tastes.
Between these two, it's peanut butter and jelly. And it's crunchy peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter is disgusting. Bread is kind of overrated.
Oh my gosh.
But if I'm gonna have something with bread, it's gonna be a grilled cheese. It's simple and it's delicious. You can get fancy with it if you want. If you want to do some tomatoes,
yeah, my dad
you can.
Does open face grilled cheese.
What the fuck is that?
It is it's grilled cheese with a tomato on top, with another piece of cheese on top of the tomato.
How do you cook that if the cheese is on the outside?
It's two pieces of bread. So it's bread, cheese, bread, and you cook that, and then you put the tomato on, and put the piece of cheese over it, and then eat it that way.
No, you had me interested, and then you lost me a little bit. But grilled cheese is significantly better because it has nothing to do with peanut butter, and peanut butter is disgusting. Jelly's kind of disgusting as well. So yeah, it's grilled cheese. Grilled cheeses are fantastic. I don't love it enough to go to fancy grilled cheese places. I don't know if you guys in Detroit have fancy grilled cheese places, but it's super simple thing to cook for yourself, and it's delicious. You can use multiple different cheeses, have different flavors. It's great. Peanut butter is disgusting though.
You're terrible.
No, I just grilled cheese all day. Yeah, someone agrees with me. Peanut butter and jelly is just nasty. Anytime I think of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I think of the garbage stuff that we would get in public school that was in the aluminum foil.
Dude, I think that you just went to school at some place that you had terrible lunch ladies. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, the Chicago public school peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are all just factory made, and kind of frozen. And I think it may have sullied me, but when I look at peanut butter now, I'm just this is disgusting. No.
But bread is okay. So what do you just have invisible grilled cheese? Is that what you do?
No. I'm saying bread. If I'm gonna have something with bread, it's gonna be a grilled cheese.
Oh my gosh, you're just
because the only bread I like is pretzel roll bread or hamburger buns. That's good, but just regular white bread. Because when I think of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm thinking of peanut butter. I hate that. Jelly, indifferent to hate on that, and then white bread. No, thank you. Grilled cheese, I see that, but at least it has cheese and butter, lots of butter, and maybe a tomato if you're fancy.
I remember making grilled cheese at home when I lived at home with my parents with Crisco.
Yeah, was it good?
Yeah, I mean that was just what you used to make sure that you grilled,
Yeah, no, that's what the butter's for, man. You just throw butter on it, but actually you slice actual sticks of butter. You don't use that butter spread.
Margarine.
Yeah, you don't use margarine. If that's what it's called?
What about? I can't believe it's not butter. Is that good enough?
No, I don't like that. I've had it before, but I don't. No.
Oh my gosh, your food habits are awful. I feel so bad for anybody that goes anywhere with you in public.
No, I'm actually really open to other foods. Like I will try new foods all the time. I just won't accept if anyone took me somewhere and on the menu was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I'm not going anywhere with that person again. Because you took me to some fucking elementary school or some shit.
Oh my gosh, you had terrible lunch in public school. I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah, completely agree. The pizza was garbage. Yeah, it was really bad. Chicago public school food is really terrible.
All right, I don't have one, so let me see if you have one. What's your spotlight?
It might be Star Wars because I might get it. I didn't pick up Pokemon, not because I fell for the boycott Pokemon hashtags. I just didn't know I had time to play it. And I kind of think releases are kind of, you know what? My spotlight, Google Stadia.
Mine is just subscription services in general because I'm finding out that there's more of them, and I'm just amazed that Premiere exists, and I didn't really realize it existed.
I mean, now you have access to Need for Speed Heat, which I don't think a lot of people knew came out last week.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of great.
So, all right, that's our show. A little bit longer than normal, but thank you guys so much for hanging out in the chat, asking questions in the chat, trying to do that, learn that balance of, interacting with chat, but also not making anybody that's the audio listener only feel like that they have to be here to have an influence. So we're still working on that balance. So if you can, please watch us live on Twitch. We know that for some of the people that live overseas, it's like 3:00 in the morning. Sorry, and then the other ones we understand it's later at night on a Sunday evening. But this is for right now what is working for us. So if you can be here, great. If not, don't feel bad. But please follow Twitch, sub if you can, however you can, whether it's through linking your Amazon Prime or just deciding to give us a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub because you're super cool. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. Look at it, see if you like it, see if you don't like it. If you don't like it, tell us why. If you like it, pick the tier that you want. Sweet, awesome, thank you. And like the Facebook page, facebook.com/digitaldaysgaming. Join the Facebook group and conversate in the group, please. We'll pull topics from there and would love to see that grow. Right now there's more people in the group than like the page, or those are really close now. And then there's a ton of you that have followed us on Twitter, but just follow the main account at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at the first MJC, and you can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. I hope everyone has a great week. You got anything else, Michael?
No, just prepare for Black Friday, I guess. Be safe out there. We'll have one more show before then, but still, prepare, figure out a game plan. Be safe.
Don't shop on Thanksgiving.
Please don't. Please don't. Really don't. But if you have to, be nice to people.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot for hanging out on Twitch, and thank you for listening. Subscribe, leave a review, do all that fun stuff. See you.
See ya.